gosh, you guys, welcome to the show. Today we have a very special guest on, my friend Rebecca Tembo. She is a fashion designer with a luxury jumpsuit label. She also has a platform called the Entry Platform, and it's for aspiring designers to build their own brands. She gets to teach people who are into fashion how to build and scale a profitable business, which I love because you guys know I'm all about that. And I actually met her during the whole Black Lives Matter movement online when we were bringing more Black voices to the light. I found her and her jumpsuits, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have got to get one of these. And I ordered it. I'm actually wearing it right now because it makes me feel like a queen. It's amazing. So you should for sure look her up and get one of her jumpsuits. They're not like any that you'll find in the store. And I actually have people stop and ask me when I wear it, like, oh my gosh, where is this jumpsuit from? Like, because it's so unique and it's so flattering to your body. So for sure, go look it up. But with all of that, welcome to the show, Rebecca.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the intro.
Of course. So glad that you're here. So tell us a little bit, take us back to before you have these amazing jumpsuits in this business. Who's Rebecca Tembo?
Okay, so I guess like a story of my life.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I was really young, my mum's a Seventh-day Adventist. So that means that they go to church on Saturdays. She doesn't really practice it, to the T now, but that's kind of how she grew up. So in the UK, they'll have retreats where they'll go to Wales or Sussex. These places are outside London, so they're very countryside places. It'll be for a week and you just, pray and do all those things. I went with her as I was growing up, so below the age of 10. And every time I would go, I'll just draw like a strapless dress all the time. It was just a strapless gown. And I don't know where I saw the dress. I used to watch a lot of TV, so maybe it was on TV, but it was just something that I just kept doing. It didn't really mean anything though, because it probably just went in the bin after. Then going to what we call secondary school. So that's between the age of, I think, 12 to 16. I would draw a lot again, and I was now learning like the different figures, different shapes and patterns, things like that. But it was all quite self-taught and just natural. There was no lessons, or I was really bad in art. It was nothing great. My friends always used to laugh at the faces that I drew because they're like, you can draw clothes, you just can't draw faces or anything. So there was a point in secondary school that I was like, you know what, I really want to do fashion in what we call year 9. So that's when you're 14 years old and you select a few subjects that you want to basically specialize in. I really wanted to do fashion. And that would mean that you're doing your core subjects like English, math, science, etc. And then you do like another thing that you just really want to do. So I wanted to do fashion, and my dad said to me, you can't do fashion, you're Black, you're not gonna make it, literally. Literally. And that was the first time that like race or it even being an obstacle was, first introduced to me, because I never ever felt not capable of doing something for any reason, yet alone skin color. It's not a conversation we've had in my family. So it was just really like, oh, okay, well, okay, So I ended up doing geography, business, subjects like that. And then when it came to going to college, which is for us, college means between 16 to 18, maybe 19 if you repeat a year. I really wanted to do textiles or something that would just, infuse fashion. And the same thing was brought up. And he said to me, why don't you just do fashion as a hobby, have a career in Canary Wharf, which is like Wall Street, basically, like all the tall buildings and the banks and stuff like that, have a career there, do fashion on the side. And I was like, okay, maybe that's what I need to do. I won't take fashion seriously. So I ended up doing very, very academic subjects, and I'm naturally very academic anyway. So I did academic subjects, and something happened. So I think I was 17 years old, first year of college, and it was probably like halfway through. And my mum said, I want you to come to church. It was like it's a Pentecostal church, so it's like a normal Sunday church. I spoke to this pastor. He told me a lot of things about her personal life and like her marriage and everything. She just wanted me to come and speak to him, just as you would as a mum, really. I was like, no, because my experience of church was like, it was boring. Well, at least the Seventh-day Adventist church to me was boring. sorry if I've offended anybody, but just where we went to personally, I really didn't want to go. And he calls my mum on Sunday morning and he's like, I know Becky doesn't want to come in, but please tell her to come. And I'm like, how do you even know that I don't want to come? Like, who argue. Like, that was just so scary to me, because I was thinking he's just going to expose everything to my parents. And I'm like 17, so you know, when you're just in school, you just do dumb things and stuff like that. So I get up and I go, and it was the first church service that I actually like learned something, and I can't remember what it was, but I just remember feeling like, wow, this was actually really funny and really cool, and I would do this every week. I didn't feel bored or suffocated or judged, anything like that. So at the end of the service, he spoke to my family. I have a brother. I have a big family, but before a lot of things happened, I live with my brother and my mum and my stepdad. So if I say dad, I'm referring to my stepdad. So we had a conversation. He told us a lot of things, and actually what I didn't mention to you is that I wanted to be a singer when I was younger. So that's actually how he started off the conversation. Like, you wanted to be a singer once upon a time. And I was just like, oh my God, here we go. Everything is coming out. And I remember my mum saying, if you're not going to do gospel music, you're not going to be a singer, basically. And I was like, I'm not doing gospel music. So I don't think I cared too much about that dream. But the reason that's so significant is when I was in primary school, which is basically I was 10 years old, I was in this like girl group. So we'll perform to like the other kids in school and like sing these songs and do these dances and stuff. And I used to watch a lot of The Hills, Laguna Beach, all of those, you know, reality TV shows at that young age. Yeah. And I must have written on a piece of paper, and I said to the girls, we're going to go to secondary school, we're going to go to college, and then once that's done, we're going to move to downtown LA. Where I got downtown LA from, I don't know. I'm assuming it's The Hills because of how much I love that show. Yeah. But the reason that's significant is, like, fast forward to this meeting with this pastor, and he's saying all of these things about my life, people to like be wary of, and just so much going on. And then he says to me, by the way, I can tell you exactly where you're going to live. And I was just like, where? He's like, America. And I was just like, okay, America's big, you know, it could be anywhere. And he's just like, California. And I was just like, okay, sunny. And then he's like, LA. And I was just like, oh. Then he says downtown LA. And I was just like, whoa, because I instantly remembered writing downtown LA on that paper when I was 10 years old. And just like, for me, I don't think my relationship with God is like perfect, and I'm definitely not as religious or like strong like that, but I definitely believe in him. And it was just so crazy because I was so young, and that was literally my heart's desire, and it still is. And it's like he heard that, he saw that, and he gave that to me, because we all want to do things when we're young. We don't always get to do that. A lot of us give up, especially when you're in your 20s, 30s. You're like, you know what, I'm an adult now, this is not looking realistic. But he did that. But he also told me at a very good stage in my life where I could make decisions without it having to like impact anybody else or have any consequences. And then on top of that, he also confirms that I'm meant to be a fashion designer. And at that time, I was doing my academic subjects. I was not doing fashion. Like, I was literally just going down the route. I would have been an investment banker, basically. So that was just like, whoa. And I think my mum was very much like, what have we been doing? Like, she should have just done what she wanted to do. I think that's what she was basically going through. And she remembers a lot of the drawing and all of that stuff. So that was crazy. And basically that's where it kind of started. Like, I went to fashion school. That was a big struggle because they didn't want me to go. So I didn't speak to them for 3 weeks, and eventually they caved in.
Your parents didn't want you to go?
Yeah, they didn't. They felt like I should continue with my academic subjects, get an academic degree, and then pursue whatever I wanted to do. But then that's like 5 years of my life gone.
Even after this guy like spoke this prophecy over your life,
yeah,
they still were like, no, don't go to fashion
yeah
school.
But you know what, I understand. The first reason is obviously like the parents love you, they just want you to be safe and to be protected. Yeah. But the other thing is, like, my parents are African, so they're immigrants, and my brother and I were the first generation to be born in this country. Yes, I'm very lucky to be from London, which is like the most expensive place in the world, literally. And they came here on a survival mode thing. There's a lot of immigrants. Like, London is a very diverse community. The UK in general is quite diverse. When they came here, it was about surviving. It was about, you know, we're going to have kids and give them a good, like, you know, opportunities, and they're going to go into jobs that pay well and are safe. They weren't thinking about, this is my dream, I'm going to go and pursue that. That was not something that they would do. And I'm sure even home for them, that's still the mentality there. It's not about pursuing your dreams, it's about like being as stable and secure as possible, even if that's at the expense of your purpose. I guess that's really the reason why. But now they're extremely, extremely supportive. That all happened, went to school, dropped out of fashion school, but that was really down to depression. But I guess we can talk about that later. Then I started, when I dropped out, I was already making some pieces. So I think I just started with one dress, posted it on social media, and got some clients straight away. And it was at a period when it's like prom in the UK, and it's like these university balls and everything. So that started, but I was extremely miserable because I didn't know then, but number one, battling depression, but number two, I wasn't doing what I was meant to do. And funny enough, today I listened to a podcast about struggle and things like that, and how when something is right for you, it feels aligned, and it's not like extremely hard work, if that makes sense. It's not like it's a struggle for you for it to work. And when things aren't aligned, that's where you get a lot of frustration and things aren't really working all the time. And of course, sometimes it's just a case of resilience and like figuring things out, pivoting, etc. But in this case, it was like it was just not for me. Custom dresses, sitting down, chit-chatting for ages, like running around, it was not for me, and I did not like it. Beginning of last year, I just said a prayer and I was like, God, I don't know what I'm meant to do. I don't want to do this, but I need to make money. What do we do? I just said, like, just give me a sign of what it is in fashion that I'm called for, because it's a huge industry. It's there's so many brands. What is it that Rebecca's meant to do? And I had a dream, and he said, you'll know it's right when you feel a fire in your belly. So I was just like, okay, I'll wait for that fire, whatever that means. But interesting enough, again, once at that church, there was a woman, and I think my pastor must have asked me to come and pray for everyone. And I was just like, oh, God, pressure. But I did. And there was another woman who's like a prophet as well. And she was just like to my mum, like, this girl has so much fire in her belly. And I'm always picking up on these little things that are like constantly like repeated, like, in life. It's just very interesting. It just so happened that last year I was working full time, so I had money to blow. But I was working for a luxury menswear brand, the business side of things basically, and I was going out all the time. I worked in Mayfair. Mayfair's like, if I compare it to anywhere, it's like Beverly Hills, like the fancy restaurants, all of that kind of stuff, and I love it. I just love it all. So I was going out for dinner, like just having a good time, and every time I went out I'd make a jumpsuit. Yeah, I just started making jumpsuits all the time. And in general, I preferred jumpsuits instead of dresses. And I felt like there was always something a bit different. But it wasn't until I put the pictures together and I was just going to post something on Twitter and be like, oh, guys, which one do you like the most? That I realized, wait a second, I'm actually making jumpsuits. Like, maybe this is something. And people responded like, oh, I love your jumpsuits. And people get the word jumpsuits and dresses mixed up all the time. Or they could have just said, I love your pieces or whatever. But that word really stuck out to me. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to just take this seriously and I'm just going to go with it. I'm quite impulsive, so I didn't even do any market research. I was like, I'm just going to do it. So did that, and it was crazy because I was working full time. I was waking up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I would try and finish my work by 7, get ready for work, run to the train station, get on the train into central London, and work until like 6ish, come home at 7 p.m. and you sew a bit more until like 10. I'm not someone that stays up all night. I have had my moments, but I'm not about it. I can't do it. But it was a lot of hours, of course, so that was quite difficult. And then at the end of last year, I handed in my resignation at my job, and I just said, I'm not even 100% prepared, but I just feel like I was mentally ready to be self-employed. I've done it before. And I was younger, I didn't have responsibility, but now, like, I've got a car, insurance, things like that to pay for. There is that kind of pressure, but I feel like I need pressure in order for me to perform as well as I know I can. So that happened, and I've been self-employed since December, and launched a luxury line in January, and then launched the premium label. Well, was it last month? No, maybe May or June, not long ago. And it's been doing pretty well. Yeah, it's a crazy journey, but I'm alive.
Oh my gosh. I wrote down so many notes and things I want to ask you about. I had no idea it was so new.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me, because from what I can see, it's doing very well. And you seem like you've been doing it forever. So clearly what you were meant to be doing.
I mean, it's been like 5 years in total,
Yeah,
but in terms of jumpsuits, yeah, that's pretty new. So yeah.
totally. So, okay. The first big thing that stands out to me that I hear you saying is a lot of overcoming mindset. Like
Yeah,
you are told, no, you can't because you're black.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
you need to go do this. Like, no, you shouldn't do that. Every step of the way, you've had resistance from important people in your life. And I think a lot of women get that resistance from people in their life, and it makes them second guess themselves.
yeah.
So you had to have a really strong mindset, really strong mental game to be like, no, I'm actually going to do this, even when other people don't think it's wise, even when other people don't think it's like, I'll be okay.
Yeah,
Did
definitely.
you like work on that consciously, or has that been a part of like your journey?
Okay, so with that, not in the beginning, it was not conscious in the beginning, and I didn't know the impact that those things had on me until probably last year. And even now, I like to say that I give myself therapy, like I'm my own therapist, because I'll literally be sitting there and I'm like, that's why I do that, or that's why this, or like I'm listening to a podcast, I'm literally just unpicking myself and learning myself a bit more. But I think the big change came from just being so miserable. Like there was also like financial pressure and things like that. And I was brought up in a household where my parents did like, you know, I'll just say they're middle class. So there's a fly flying around. They're middle class, but they are the type that aren't good with money. So they have good jobs, good salaries, nice house, poor money management. And when I was really young, all I saw were the things, and they would give me things, and it was quite instant. And I didn't know how much work or sacrifices or whatever was going on for them to do that. It wasn't until I was a bit older and it was harder for them to, kind of continue that lifestyle, that I was like, oh, there's bills, there's debt, there's this, there's just like, it was just really difficult for me to like come to terms with, because I was always the kid in school, the nice bag, the shoes, like I was always that person. So I'm now like, oh, I need to actually work because my mum can't give me money like that anymore. Like she has other priorities right now. And I have a younger brother too. So it really started when I was like, okay, I need to make money. And I was constantly like, always worried about money. I was scared about money. I felt like money would just come and go. There was actually a time when my dad gave me like, he works in education. He gave me some papers to mark. And he said, if you mark them every week, I'll give you money. So week number one, I marked them. He gives me like £30. I'm like, yay, I'm young. £30 is a lot. That's probably like $50 or something. At that time was a lot. I go to this place, I get a temporary tattoo, like the ones that they kind of like spray paint on. And he's like, no, I come back home and he's like, what is that? And I'm like, oh, it's just temporary, don't worry. And he just like, is this how you're spending your money? I'm never giving you money again. And he did not lie. Like he never gave me money again. I think maybe once that he gave me like another £30 like 10 years later, but literally, yeah, he didn't. And what he should have done in that situation was actually sit me down and say, hey Bex, I know you're excited to get some money and you've earned it so you can do what you want, but this is basically the best way you should have gone about it. Like put this amount for savings and spend this much, and that kind of thing. So there was never any teaching of financial literacy. But you'll find that, I don't know, at least especially in the UK, like a lot of families, especially from immigrant households and stuff, like this is a very, very common and wide issue. Like no one is taught financial literacy in school. I think that's done on purpose. I think they don't teach that on purpose, because if we knew, like you're a coach, so if everybody knew what you knew, everyone would be in a great position. That you can't really control society. That's kind of how I see it. If you look at it in schools, like they're not going to teach us at a young age, because then we become these great people, and then we can't be controlled once you have so much economic power. Like a lot of people with economic power, it's very hard to like to keep them grounded and everything. So anyway, so that happened, and I was really broke at a point, and I was with my ex-boyfriend, and he is basically the opposite to me. He's white guy, private school, lives in the countryside, parents are like, they love life, they go to Monaco all the time. Like that was literally their lifestyle. And it was the first time I'd been with someone that was like that. So it was a very interesting experience, and I have nothing really bad to say, but I remember that there was a point where he I was just so sad. Like my mood was always switching, and I was like, he didn't know the reason because I couldn't bring myself to even say like I literally just don't have money, and it was very difficult when you're in an environment where it's like it's literally just in your face all the time. As humble as they are, it was just in my face. And he, when I did finally say it to him, he was just like, to me, it just sounds like you're putting the blame on others and you're just complaining. Why don't you just do something about it? And I was just like, I beg your pardon? He said, what? And yeah, and he's not even like, honestly, he's not even that kind of person where he's like, oh, like I've got myself together. Like he's not, right. But he definitely saw something and thought, okay, like this girl needs to fix up. And when he said that, I wasn't working, so I was like making pieces and doing all the custom dresses and everything. So I actually ended up applying for a job in retail, clothing store, got that, and worked a bit, and the store closed down. So then I didn't work for like a couple months just because I honestly could not be bothered. Like I can't. It's very hard because my thing with clothing retail, at least here, is that I feel like my brain isn't working. I'm just standing there all day and I'm frustrated. And in this job, because it was a very small boutique, I'll just be sketching all the time, like sketching dresses and all these designs and stuff. So later on, when I was extremely broke again, this was at a point where I was crying every day. My friends did not understand what was going on. I just got a job in Selfridges, which is like a really big luxury department store over here. And that paid really well because I only worked part-time, so like 2-3 days a week. And you get a lot of money because of commission. I worked in accessories, so like Stella McCartney, YSL, brands like that. So you can imagine what that price point, the commission you'll get as well. So that was really cool. We broke up, but I feel like the reason we had that experience was just for me to realize that I had to take some level of control. And at that time, I read a book called The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. I don't know if you've read it before.
I haven't, but I've heard of it.
Oh my God, that is my favorite book in the whole entire world. Like, favorite book. It changed my life, and I don't know what I would do if I hadn't read that book. And it was all about taking responsibility, understanding that we have more control than we actually think we do, just not putting the blame on others. Like everything that's gone wrong up until now is my fault because I made the decision. No one's put a gun to my head and said, go and do this, go and be in debt, go and, max out that credit card, go and, like, no one told me to do that.
Right.
But myself. Okay, I didn't have that financial literacy and all of that stuff, but there's nothing I can do about it because like it's the past, it's been done. So now it's really just like overcoming it. And then as that happened, that was like my first, I've read like some self-development, those kind of books before, but not at a point where it's consistent. So once that happened, then I really got into reading, and I'm reading all these books and I'm like, whoa, like that's wrong with me and that needs to be improved. And that's when I started to learn, like even like the relationship with money, like so much just started to like unravel from that point in my life.
I love that his comment to you, while it was so like hurtful at the time, was literally what called you up.
Yeah.
It was the mirror that you needed to take 100% responsibility. And that's something I talk about a lot with people, is taking radical responsibility for your life, because that's the path to freedom. Not because everything has been your fault. No, but because you can only change something when you take responsibility for it.
Exactly.
So tell me, what are your top favorite money books that you've read?
Okay, so The Secrets of Six-Figure Women from Barbara Stanny. I don't know if you've heard that one. I love that book. That's where I understood the whole like relationship with money concept. So she interviews so many women on six figures, and just like, how they view money and how they view their work life. Because some of them are entrepreneurs, some of them have careers, and just it's very interesting to see the balance. And I guess that's when I learned about the whole like how your parents spoke to you about money affects your relationship with money later on. I read Profit First, which is all about I can't remember, Mike something maybe. But he talks about paying yourself first and all of that stuff. It's been a while since I've read it. And I read a bit of The Art of Money. I can't remember who the author is, but she is a coach. And I've read Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, which is really good. Yeah, really, really good. I need to reread that. And of course, I've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I feel like everyone's done that one. I feel like there's more, but those are the ones that really like stick out to me. But then in other, self-development books, you always find like a chapter or so on that topic. So yeah.
And I think the biggest misconception out there is that people don't even understand that money is a mindset issue. Like
Yeah.
most people are like, what do you mean mindset? Like, don't we all think about money? Like it's money, right? And so it's always trying to convey to people, like, it's literally how you think about it and view it, and the stories you were told. And it sounds like you were told stories about money, and clearly it almost sounds like when your dad, that incident happened with your dad, you took on the story of like, if I don't spend in a way that's approved of, I don't get money.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you did, but that's what I hear. Like, you
Yeah.
could have taken on with that. So that's so interesting. So you start changing, you start reading these personal development books, and that's what gave you, it sounds like, some of the gumption to move into what you're doing today.
Yeah, yeah. Again, like, we're taking responsibility. It's like, okay, you're not happy, but that's like, whose fault is that, and who's going to change, something about it? And it's me. And I guess that's why I prayed that prayer, like, God, what is it that I'm meant to do? Because I had to figure it out. I cannot continue going on. Like, I know I'm young, but I don't want to waste any time, because I feel like definitely 2020 has taught us that life is short. We all want to live long lives, but we don't know what's going to happen. So I'm trying to make sure that every day is as fulfilling as possible. And I'm a very career focused person. So that for me, that means like the work that I'm doing is very meaningful and important. So that led to me finally understanding what I meant to do. But even with that, like, even with it being jumpsuits, and I've kind of been going back and forth about this, because as much as I love the luxury line, I love nice things. I can't even hide it. Sometimes I feel a bit more disconnected to it, because I feel more connected to the customer who's ordered from like the premium label. It's not expensive and it's not cheap either. So I feel like it's just a decent price range. I think it's a fair price range, considering that they're all like handmade as well. It's like they just feel more relatable with their, with the conversations that we have, and just the genuine support and everything. And that's kind of like where my heart feels a bit more aligned with. But at the same time, there is that kind of passion for creating these like nice pieces. Like, I literally will just design something, post it on social media, and it'll do so well. And I'm trying to understand like the balance there now. But it's been a journey to understand, even like within making jumpsuits, what is it exactly. So yeah, I think it will always be a journey. But for now, I feel like I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, this is working. So we'll just go with it and just be open-minded to like what happens in the future.
So let's talk about that some, because I love that you talked about how you went to beauty school, or fashion school, sorry, knowing that that's what you were supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
You ended up dropping out. And you didn't let the fact that you dropped out stop you from creating fashion, because you so felt that pull. But even then, you knew something was not in alignment. I teach people a lot about finding the problem within their industry that they solve, because too many people try to pick an industry like fashion, and then they don't stand out because they sound like everybody else. And you said in here that you weren't in alignment until you found jumpsuits, and that's your niche, right? And I talk about this all the time. Finding your niche is what's going to make you successful. You found the problem in an industry, and your problem was that you didn't really actually like wearing dresses. You decided you like wearing jumpsuits, and you allowed yourself to be true to that and to use that to create a solution. That is such a beautiful picture to me of finding the problem within the problem, is what I always tell people. Can you talk me through that process, and how, like, you even had the gumption to follow your intuition? Because that's what I hear you saying, is you just let your intuition, yourself, be true to you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess with that, I'm very impulsive. So whether it was like gut instinct or whatever, I was just going to do whatever I felt like doing in the moment. So once I had committed to it, it was like, I just have to write it out. But also, I guess I hate to use, like social media metrics as anything to really like stand upon. But there was a lot of validation through the support that I was receiving online, from making that decision, or from showing a jumpsuit design. So it wasn't like I just thought, okay, I'm going to make jumpsuits, without seeing that people really liked it. I hate Twitter so much, but it really works for me. Like, I'll literally post something. The last like custom made jumpsuit that I posted, which was like months ago, got like, I think, nearly 2 million views on Twitter. Like, they literally go viral, and I don't understand, like obviously I think the design's nice, but I don't get why it's so crazy. Like, it's just insane how it works. But I think it's very easy to go viral on Twitter as opposed to Instagram for sure. But I see that reaction and like clearly there's something that I'm meant to be doing, because when I post a dress, yeah, it gets some attention, but it's not the same thing. It's really not. And I can post a picture of one jumpsuit, like literally from my neck down, and that goes viral. And that's what I basically said. I think it was before, I don't know if it was before this call or after, basically just about like being aligned. It didn't feel so hard. I didn't have to beg for any attention, any support. It was just there because that's probably what I'm meant to be doing. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
No, that is. And I love that you said you followed the feedback that you got on social media, because again, that's what I tell people too, is like your people will give you feedback and you can choose to ignore it, or you can choose to take it and then make something that fits the feedback you're getting. But I think a lot of people get offended because they're like, well, come on, I'm a great designer. I should be able to make dresses. Like, why is this so hard? Why don't people like what I'm offering? Instead of going, oh no, they're just telling me what they like. So if I can follow that and then use it to incorporate it into my offer, business is so much easier.
Literally, yeah.
So how do you think you didn't get offended? And like, why don't you guys like my dresses? Like, like
I think it's because I generally did not enjoy making dresses anyways. So I knew I was miserable because of that. I knew I did not like doing it. And everyone was just like, oh, but you're so good at it. Like, I was like, I hate sewing. Like literally before, and it's crazy because obviously I sew all these pieces, but prior to making like the loungewear stuff, I hated sewing with a passion. I've never understood why I was gifted with this talent that I despise. Like it was like, oh, it felt so long, and just my heart just sank every time I had to sit at the sewing machine, and I felt just all cooped up, and you know, I just wanted to breathe and just not sew basically. So it's so funny, like now I actually really enjoy it when it's something that's aligned, whereas before it was just the complete opposite way. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't happy, which meant that there was something not right. And it wasn't like I wasn't happy full stop. I wasn't happy, and I tried things. Maybe it's best if I sew in the morning than the evening. Maybe it's best if I, you know, have music, or I tried to make things more enjoyable for myself, but it still wasn't working. Whereas now I can sew in complete silence and I'm good. Like I'm literally good. I have no problem. So yeah, you have to just be very self-aware and pick up on things. And I think that's something I've been luckily blessed with, like just to be self-aware. So yeah.
When did you get the desire or the pull to make a jumpsuit? Because here you're telling me like you hated sewing, you were miserable, and then you decided to sew a jumpsuit.
Crazy.
Came from nowhere, or like what?
No, I mean, you know, my first jumpsuit, I probably made it like 4 years ago. I remember going to this event. I think this would have been the sign. If I was more like tuned in, that would have been the sign. I think I made it like 3-4 years ago, and I went to this like comedy show, and we're just so extra here. It's like dress up, like heels and everything. There was nothing to really dress up for, but we just do it. So, and it was like the pants were white, and then I had like this like halter neck like thing going on, and it was like in this like turquoise silk kind of color. Sorry, display. It was really nice, honestly. And I remember they were doing like a best dress thing, and they were just going to vote someone randomly that was best dressed. And I personally, to this day, believe I was best dressed there. So they vote and everything, and I didn't win, unfortunately. But at the end, I don't think anyone really saw my outfit. So at the end, when we're all standing up and we're moving around and you can see what people are wearing, everyone's just like, oh my God, you should have won. Like, her jumpsuit's amazing. Like that kind of thing. And that was the first jumpsuit that I made. And it's so funny, like I'm looking back and thinking like best dressed, like all of, you know, the signs were there. It's just that my ears weren't open. I wasn't really tuned in to know. And maybe I wasn't meant to know at that time. Maybe it wouldn't have worked out, or, you know, whatever. I think everything happens at the right time. So, and now, I forgot the question. I've gone a bit off topic.
Oh, like getting the desire to make a jumpsuit.
Okay.
With sewing.
But the difference, so like with the luxury pieces, for example, I don't make them because they're very technical. I just don't want any issues, and they take quite a while to make. It could take like 2 days to put together, which doesn't sound long, but then it's like maybe 8 hours one day, 8 hours the next day. Yeah. I don't have the attention span, the patience. I'm not a patient person at all. But with the loungewear pieces, Like, I can whip them up so quickly. And when I first started making them, it will take me like 3 hours to make one, which sounds short, but for me, I'm always trying to think of ways to do things quicker. So I've now gone down to like an hour and a half, hour, 15 minutes to make one. That's good. That's really good for me. And it means I can get quite a few done. And I think that's one of the reasons I enjoy it as well, because I like to see things be completed to make me feel like I've achieved something. So once that one jumpsuit's done, and let's say it's like I start at 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 9:30 a jumpsuit's done, I'm like, wow, this is a great day. Like, I feel like I've done something really, good. And I know there's still more time in the day to like get things done as well. So like today it's 7:14 here, 7:15, but I've done 3 so far. So I'm gonna do one more and call it a day basically. But yeah, I guess it being quicker to make definitely helps me enjoy it as well. And they're easy pieces like to sew up. So yeah.
I love it. And I love that you were just letting yourself have fun and make yourself a fun outfit for something.
Yeah.
I think women get so caught up in business and trying to make their business happen, they forget to have fun. And that fun can actually bring the new ideas and the successful ideas. Preaching to the choir here. But then, okay, so talk me through, you start making yourself, how did you have the business side of things as far as like knowing how to price yourself and like do all of that stuff? Because again, I help coach women through this process and they're always like, I have no idea how to price myself.
Mm. Okay, so when I first started, I feel like I was charging very minimal. I think it was like £40. Maybe that's about $60 or something like that per piece. So then I'll add the fabric and everything on top. That is literally like nothing. Like £40 is nothing. And these here, it's literally like I can't do anything with that. It was hard because the money didn't even feel worth it because you've been working like for how many, and I just started, so it took me a while to make stuff. It might take me like a week to finish it, and that's all I get, £40. That's less than 200 a month. Like it was horrible. And then I remember I was working in All Saints. I don't know if you've heard of that brand. I was working in All Saints, and my colleague said to me that £40 is way too cheap, charge 75. I was like, no one's gonna buy something for 75 and then like their fabric on top. I've never ever seen anyone do that before. And he was just like, yeah, they would, because it's bespoke. Like, why would they not do that? So I was like, okay, I'll try. But I was petrified, literally petrified, but I did it. And no one said no. No one said that's too expensive. And I was just like, oh, okay. And then again, my neighbor, who was a bridal designer, she had like her own thing, and it's literally only by chance that I live next door to her because she's taught me everything that I know. But she was looking at my work because she didn't even know what I did until we had a conversation, and she was like, oh my god, like I've been doing this for like this many years, like coming to my house, we're so close. She's like a grandmother to me. She was like, £75, it needs to be 150. And I'm like, double? Like, this is crazy. And that's not included in the fabric. That's literally just labor. So that was hard because, I mean, I didn't really know too much about the mindset stuff then, but I guess I had people in place that were telling me, just do it. Like, literally just try it and see what happens. And again, no one was saying a no. Maybe when I got to 150, there was a bit of who does she think she is or whatever, but I didn't care. Like, I think I just got to a point where I was like, people are buying it, and I was understanding that not everybody's your customer. Like, those kind of things were, I was learning about that. I think I've always been quite entrepreneurial, but obviously you're young, you don't really know things properly. Yeah, once I got to that 150 stage, that's when I started to be like, okay, this should actually be 400 or 500 or whatever. And I understood like budgeting, and like if someone wants to inquire about something, like make sure I know how much all the fabric costs, how long it'll take, how much I'm going to charge per hour for this, like all of those like things that I just need to think of, and then give them a price. And sometimes obviously you have to mark it up as well because you need to put some money back into the business. Really and truly, I didn't really like pay myself per se. Like I definitely like bought things and went places, but the money really just stayed in the business. And I had a job. Sometimes I'll be working part-time, so that would like basically pay for my life. That was really, I guess it was just the influence of people that made me start thinking about the numbers. But I was still really bad at all of that stuff. So I guess it was really like maybe last year or the year before that I was like, okay, I fell in love with entrepreneurship. Like, I love it so much, and it's very difficult, and there's loads of tears. I know, like, you know how it is, but I just loved like everything about it, and the people you get to meet, the opportunities, and just the self growth and the development. That's when I was like, okay, I really want to be like, I always think about future me and the kind of person she is, and she's very like put together. She knows her stuff. She knows her numbers. She's profitable. Like, she's an inspiration to others, things like that. In order for me to be like that, I had to be business savvy. So I'm like always trying to learn as much as possible with what I can do for my business, basically, because the business side is so important. And that's why I started the entry, because creatives are amazing, but the business side, they don't want to hear it. And it's like, if you're not going to sort it out, it's not going to work out. So many brands fail, not because they're not talented, but because they don't know how to run a business. And then they don't want to look at the numbers because the numbers are scary. And it's like, so what are we going to do? Like, what is there to do? So, yeah.
Oh my gosh, we're going to jump into that next. But first, I want to say, I heard you say when you first priced yourself at 40 pounds, it didn't feel worth it. You weren't excited to show up for it. That, to me, is always key, that your prices are wrong. Like, if you're not excited to show up and provide the service that you provide, or the product or solution that you provide, your prices aren't high enough. Yeah. And I know that for myself, because last year when I pivoted in my business and all of a sudden started creating an offer that was much higher priced, it scares you always the first time, because you're like, what? Like, who's going to pay for it? And then people do, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, I'm going to bring it. Like, I will show up. Like, I'm excited. Like, I'm going to make sure I am the best. Like, it just changes the energy in you, literally. And so checking in with your energy about how you feel about what you do is so crucial to knowing if you're doing the right thing and if your prices are right.
Yeah.
So I love that you said that, because I bet you're way more excited now to show up.
Yeah, I mean, obviously these pieces, like with the premium stuff, they're not 150, but then the time is different. Like, I'm spending like an hour and a half at the most on them. It's, you know, it's not the same as spending 3 days or 4 days on something, and there's profit. So that's the difference as well. So yeah,
I love that. Okay, so you started building your own thing, and then you decided, you know what, I want to help other people that are creative and want to build a brand, and they don't know anything about the business side, which I love that you're expanding and looking at more ways to help more people.
Yeah.
How did you start that, and what exactly do you do to help?
Okay, so I started with some workshops earlier this year. They were just, I called it Fashion Business Basics. They didn't really have a proper name for it, but that was literally what it was, just the basics of starting a fashion brand. So just covered a few like things like marketing, and mindset was actually the first topic that I spoke about, because that's extremely important. Even your relationship with money, that was covered there. And, you know, design, production, you know, stuff like that. And it did really well. I got so much feedback. And funny enough, I guess this is how you know something's aligned as well. I think I only had like 20 spaces per workshop. And I thought it was going to take like 3 weeks to sell out, because I was like, who really cares about, you know, all of that stuff? And it sold out in like 2 days. Minimal effort. And, you know, I was like, what? That's crazy. So then I did another date for the weekend after, and that sold out again in like, I think 72 hours. And I'm just like, wow. Then I did a webinar version, and I did that over 3 days, and I can't remember how many people it wasn't capped, because obviously it's online, but I can't remember, but it was probably the same number of people that attended the workshops as well. It was insane. I was like, wow, okay. And it went so well. Like, had a presentation, and just, you know, it was literally a full day, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. talking about all of this stuff. And then the entry itself really formed in April when COVID started, and I was just like, oh, I need something to like do that, not necessarily like making or designing pieces. It has to be something else, because I also wanted another stream of income anyways, but I wanted it to be something that I actually care about. So I was like, okay, I was just, you know, reading stuff online, and I just stumbled onto like online courses, and I was just like, oh, well, I actually did the workshops. I can turn that into an online course, and, you know, let some people know about it, get them onto the course, and just give that a go. So did some research, listened to loads of podcasts and things like that, and I launched the entry platform as a website, and just gave out so much valuable content and like just tips and things. And then I launched the course maybe a couple weeks later. and that did good. I think I got like 48 people on the course, and it was only open for like a week, so that was pretty cool. Funny enough, everything I do, like everyone's American. Like even that with the jumpsuits, everyone is American. It's so funny.
Awesome.
That's why LA's is very possible, because like what am I doing here? But yeah, so that was really cool. And then I just did like a drip feed thing where I was making it as I was going. So every week I would upload a new module, but for that past week I've been working on it, and it was good because I could get feedback and make it better all the time. And honestly, it was the most fulfilling thing I've ever done in my life. Like so fulfilling. I felt so like fulfilled is the only word I can think of, but you know what I mean. Like it was so good. Definitely after, I haven't been as active because literally as soon as that ended, and whilst I was doing that, I was like, oh my god, I need more sales. You know, like COVID, the course come to an end. Once that ended, that's when the jumpsuits literally just soared, and I was like, there is a time for everything. I could not have done both because they were both extremely time consuming. But now, hopefully definitely from next week, we'll be back to like the consistency in terms of like posting and the emails and gearing up for the next enrollment, which will be in like October probably. So yeah, that's been so fun though, and I love it. And I'm also launching a podcast soon called Designer to Designer, and it's literally just sitting down with independent brands and having like, you know, just really candid conversations. But for me, not just in fashion but in entrepreneurship in general, we don't hear from enough people that are kind of still at the earliest stages of their brand. You know, I love listening to everybody's stories, but if you're like 10 years in the game or you're super, super established, those like little things that you go through in the beginning can sometimes be missed because you're trying to keep your story short. I'm sure I've missed out a lot of things myself. And I feel like the reason why the entry works is because they're learning from someone that's very relatable. I'm not 1,000 steps ahead, maybe I'm just 10 steps ahead. And then they can be like, oh, like, you know, that's a lot more, it feels more achievable and attainable, and it's someone that they can relate to. And there isn't that out there that I've seen, at least. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I just heard you touch on a couple of things. One is fill a need that you see in your industry. If you can fill it, because if there's a need, like people will buy. People will buy that. And two, you created or you sold it before you created it.
Yeah.
You advertised a course, and then as people were going, you're making the content to put in front of them. That is what I tell people to do all the time, because they get caught up in thinking they need to have everything all together, put all this time and effort into making this course. When they haven't sold it, they don't even know if anybody's going to sign up.
Exactly.
But sign people up and then let them tell you what they want to learn, and then you make the content based on that. So I love that you're doing that. Let's talk a little bit about also, as an entrepreneur during COVID, having the idea to pivot in your business. Because again, this is what I've been trying to talk to business owners that especially do some sort of service-based business, like lashes, hair, things that they couldn't literally do during COVID. I was trying to talk to them and say, what else can you do? How can you pivot in your business right now to be bringing in income? And I think so many people are like, oh, I'll just wait it out. And I'm like, that's like the worst thing you should do, because who knows what life will be like after it's over. And now they're saying there's going to be another quarantine. So I think it was so smart that you thought to pivot in your business.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when COVID first came out, I was very scared in general because the fear that was kind of like put in the news and stuff. I don't even watch the news, so you know, I'm actually watching the news now. That was very scary. But then it got to a point where I was very like excited, which sounds bad, but for me it was like all this self-development work, like this is the time for it. Like now is the time that I have to think on my feet and figure it out, because you know, it would be a waste of all those books, all those podcasts, all those conversations, all of the unlearning and relearning and all that stuff. It'll be such a waste if in this situation, which is the worst situation for business owners and people in general, like for your personal life, it's the worst situation to be in. I just wanted to come out of it on a high and know that if I can get through this, then I can probably get through anything, because I'm sure that nothing worse than this could happen to the world, and you know, on such a global scale, unless, I don't know, the world just like erupts. So
yeah, problems are always an opportunity if we can choose to put it that way.
Yeah,
is all perspective, right? So every time there's a problem, it's like, no, what is the opportunity in this?
Yeah,
There's an opportunity if we want that. So I would love to hear, you know, you have an amazing story, and it's not picture perfect, But from the 30,000-foot view of like watching your entrepreneurial journey, it sounds almost like, oh, everything just like happened. And it was like, perfect. Like you never had a moment of being like, oh my God, this isn't working. So what would you say has been like one of the hardest things to overcome in your business journey?
The hardest thing, I think it will be just the whole mindset stuff, like having to just change. Like, when you have a business, you have to confront everything wrong with you. Like, there is no skipping it. Everything comes out to play. It does not hide, because like a business is not just something that you do. It's literally tied into yourself as a person. So if you have bad habits, if you have, limited beliefs, things like that, it's literally going to be right in your face, and you have to do something about it. And I feel like for a long time, it made me so depressed, because I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle these emotions. I'm generally very emotional anyways. And again, like I told you, like there was the whole like blaming others, blaming everyone for things. And that was honestly like the darkest of my days. Like I would have no money, or like not even that I'd have no money, because I always made money. That's the thing. I've always made money. It was just holding on to it. That's the issue. So I would see it all come in, yay, and then it's all gone. But then to me, mum said that back to square one, like it's meant to be like that, right? So as much as I hated it, it's kind of like, oh, whatever, it's going to go anyways, maybe not being able to do all the things that your friends are doing, like that's quite difficult sometimes. I was on antidepressants. Like there was a point where I remember one December, I did not get out of bed. Like I would go to bed at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'll wake up at 4 p.m, shower, eat because I have to, and then go back to bed and watch. I was watching scary movies as well. I don't know if that's significant, but it's funny that it was just very dark movies, and my room was always dark, and it was winter, so winter's dark in general. I just had nothing, and I remember my dad said to me, he's like, sometimes I just look at you and it's like I just don't even know what to say. Like it's like I guess he meant it like there's nothing. Like I look in your eyes and there's nothing in your eyes, and that's literally just how I felt. And I think it's a lot because I guess also with my mum, especially, I have a close relationship with them both, but with my mum, I guess it's more like she wished she could do more. She wished she could like get me like certain things, or like provide more support, or like give me the money to like, have a collection, or, do things. And it was quite difficult because I could see like she felt like she didn't, like she failed or something. But my mom's done so much. She's bought my machines. She is literally like posting my stuff everywhere. She tells everybody what I do. Like she's done so much for me, and she's done so well in her own career. And again, it's just the mismanagement of money sometimes. But that was very, very difficult. And then obviously, my dad said, you're not going to make it as a fashion designer. And I'm basically there proving him right. There's even so much work I had to do, like mentally, with my dad, and understanding like sometimes I loved him, sometimes I hated him, and this seeking validation, like why I need everything to be validated, especially by men, because my dad never gave me that. There was so much. And it's I guess like I'm 23 now, but I started at 18. It's so much to handle, and nobody like nobody knows these things, these mindset stuff. Nobody knows it. So I'm having to learn it very quickly at a very young age so that I can maintain a business. And nobody knows what I'm talking about because they haven't been introduced to that. They'll probably reach that in their 20s, in their 30s. And yeah, that was very, very hard. But then even with that, the hard times don't stop. Like as much as everybody thinks everything's amazing right now, it has been like the hardest month for me mentally, because I guess it's, even though there's work that's been done, I've learned that the work has to continue. Like you can't just stop once you feel like everything's good. I'm at that point where I'm like so scared that everything's gonna go. Like no one's gonna buy jumpsuits anymore. Like it's all gonna be like, it's all gonna be over. It was just like a quick thing. Yep, nobody cares. And that's what I'm going through, August the 1st, all the bills, the rents, everything comes out. And I'm just there like, and like I made a lot of money, but then I've had so many bad things happen. Like things just when moving here, like things that were promised, and yeah, my car has been crazy. Like to me, it's in great condition now, but it's taken like grand out of my pocket, and all of that stuff, which has now led to this point where I'm like, what am I going to do? Like there's only a few days to pay this and pay that. But at the same time, like, I understand that's part of the whole journey, but it's interesting that once I allowed all of that fear, negativity, like the doubt to come in, everything kind of like stopped going as well as it was a bit, or paused, shall I say. And it's like now I'm at a point where I've had my moping stage, I've cried, I've screamed, I've been angry with God, I've done all of that, and I'm like, okay, we need to actually get back up because there's a couple days and you need to fix things up. So yeah, it's been such a like, it's a crazy thing, and I'm sure even worse things will happen in the future, but it gets easier to handle. Yeah, definitely. But for me, it always comes down to what I'm thinking about, like what's in my mind.
Yeah. And there's always a new layer to shed. Yeah. And that's what I hear you saying is like, okay, you worked on it, but you're at a new level now. So there's a new layer to shed always.
Yeah.
That I totally feel you on that, girl. I'll wrap this up with this last question. What would be like your biggest piece of advice or message that you would want to share with like women who are maybe in the hard trenches of wanting to start a business and they feel like they're in that rock bottom and they're not seeing the light and they're wondering, am I doing everything wrong? And is there a light on the other side? Or maybe it's just people in their life in general in their rock bottom and wondering like, is this going to ever end? And why is this going to be good for me someday? Would you have like a certain message that you would want to share?
Oh, it's tricky. There's two things in my mind.
Huh?
I know not everyone's religious or necessarily believes in God or whichever, but maybe they believe in the universe or something. But pray, even if you're not going to pray to God, just pray and just ask for direction, because had I not asked for that, I would not have got this. It's literally like seeking you shall find. Like if you need direction, you've got to go and look for it. It's not going to just like come up. Yeah, you have to make it very intentional. So definitely call upon something and ask, what am I meant to do? And when you ask that, actually go and try different things and just be a bit more aware of the things you're saying, the way you're, I don't know, like, well, I say dressing, but like if you obviously do fashion, maybe the things that you're wearing, the conversations that you're having, the people around you, like just be very aware of that, because I feel like what we're meant to do in terms of our purpose, I feel like they're usually exposed to us at a very, very young age. And then as we grow older, we're like, oh, that makes sense, because like if you're a great speaker, maybe you just were, I don't know, you had maybe loads of friends when you're younger, or maybe it's like, I remember like when I was young, for example, I used to do like speeches in my bedroom. I don't know why. I was literally just like creating charities just for fun, and I'll just do that, you know. And you like kind of like realize these little things a bit later on in life, like that makes sense as to why I'm like that. And the second thing is to just read and read and read and read. Like had I not read Shoe Dog and The Obstacle Is the Way and Secrets of Six-Figure Women and stuff like that, I would not be able to like persevere. But because I know of people's stories and what they've gone through, the hardships, like, you know, Phil Knight from Shoe Dog, who's the founder of Nike, like he's been through it. I don't even want his life. It's been horrible, and he's now obviously at a great stage, but at his age, it's like you wish that he had that when it was a bit, you know, younger as well. It's been crazy. But then I look at that, and when I'm going through something, I'm like, okay, if he can get through that, so can I. And I feel like, yeah, books, honestly, they've changed my life, and I'm so grateful to just have the ability to read and to comprehend and to then act upon it as well. So yeah, pray and read.
Oh, those are great answers, and I totally agree with both of them. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story and your amazing fashion with us and your gifts with the world. I'm definitely cheering you on over here, and I'll link up your IG and everything to the show notes. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Yes, it was. And everybody, if you love this episode, don't forget to take a screenshot, share it out on your Instagram. You can tag Rebecca and me and tell us what your takeaway was, or go check her out. Go check out her store. You won't regret it. Her jumpsuits are amazing. So thanks for listening, everyone.